So we come across this all too often. And it's like, oh, it's a center for autism that's nonprofit. Like it needs to be like bare minimum when it comes to design because we have to invest the money somewhere else. Like, first of all, it doesn't have to be a high budget. You just have to make the right choices.
It's behavior, bitches.
Hey guys, it's Liat. Welcome to today's episode of Behavior Bitches. Today we have a very special guest on. Are they ever not very special? No, because I only pick special people. Today's guest is Ximena Valle, the co-founder and CEO of 15 Architecture and Design. Ximena is known for her innovative, human-centered approach to architecture, leading projects that range from autism centers and makerspaces to major life sciences buildings for institutions like Drexel University and Cornell Institute. With degrees from the University of Florida and the University of Pennsylvania, and as an adjunct associate professor at Temple University, she's both an educator and a practitioner, pushing the boundaries of how design can impact learning, development, and well-being. Ximena is a passionate advocate for inclusive design, especially for neurodiverse communities, showing how thoughtful choices in color, layout, and materials can support not just the client, but also the mental health of the staff who work with them. Welcome to the show, Ximena.
Thanks so much, Liat. It's such a pleasure to be here.
I'm so stoked to have you on. I have so many questions for you, honestly, just even with that beginning part.
Awesome.
Usually I have my team do like the pre-meeting because otherwise I run the whole podcast twice, like because I have all the
Of
questions
course.
then. So when I come in, it's like exciting still. I get to ask all the questions. But before we do anything, I like to ask a few questions to get to know whoever I have on the show. So to get to know you, I want to know, if you weren't an architect, what career path would you be on?
So I had a stint with archaeology and I loved that. So maybe that.
Archaeology, like dinosaur? No.
Like ruins of maybe it's too much like architecture, but like yeah, like discovering the past, I guess.
Oh, interesting. So you like appreciate like historical, like
It seems like a pretty cool thing to do because you're like unearthing things that other people have never like seen or thought about, or maybe there's hypotheses that are wrong and you're like helping to prove
very
that
cool.
they're
I mean
wrong.
that is cool.
I don't know.
Okay.
That's the first thing that came to my mind. There's probably a
No,
few
I mean
other things I would do.
it makes sense. It's not so far off. Okay, so
Right.
what is your favorite room or feature in your own home?
My favorite room or feature, I just love that we have big windows and a lot of daylight. And I also love, so I live in the city, and I was thinking about that this morning. I opened the windows so that I could hear the sounds of the city, which to some people probably sounds like absolutely insane. Like people want to like, listen to the sound of the birds and the nature. I opened my windows so that I could hear the sounds of the city, and I just love that.
You know, I also like, I mean, even when I go to sleep, I love hearing like people talking in the background, chaos in the
Hmm.
background, and then I could go to sleep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I actually more so than like falling asleep to like nature sounds.
It's yeah, and like if I go visit my parents in the suburbs, the quiet is spooky.
We actually talk about that in ABA called adaptation. When like you're exposed to a stimulus for a prolonged period of time, it actually like you don't even hear it anymore. It's like your norm.
Right. That makes a lot of sense.
Yep. All right, next. What is your biggest architecture or design pet peeve?
Oh, I have so many.
Let's hear.
And a lot of them is really why I wanted to start a company. It's all of those pet peeves just adding up. And there's so many. And I think at the top is generally an architect's like fascination with their own project or creative process at the expense of the voice of the client.
That's interesting because so I guess almost 2 years ago now, I decided that I was gonna like renovate my house. And like I wanted to make it I got divorced and I was like, do I do it? Like I'm divorced. Like I don't know if this is my forever, the way I'm gonna be living as a single. Then I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna make it a house that I love. So I got an architect, sorry, told you, to help me with my
Yep.
architecture. And he was like, okay, what's your budget? I tell him my budget and like what I want. Then he does a whole thing and I'm like, number one, that wasn't one thing I said. Second of all, you're 4 times my budget. So, like, this isn't even fun. Like, I can't even do any of these, you know? It was like,
Yep.
well, what's the point of me doing this? Because, like, yeah, if I wanted to draw out
Yep.
a castle, I too
I could
could.
have done it.
Right.
Yep.
Exactly.
Totally. Totally. I wish I could tell you that you had a unique experience, and that's really not how it is, but that's really all too often the story.
You know, you were actually saying you're from South America, and it's funny that this person that I hired was also from, I guess it is South America, Mexico City, technically, but, like, no? Is it?
Central?
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 But
It
anyway, the
depends.
point was
Yeah.
that, like, it was a place that,
Yeah.
like, space was limited. So, like, his thing was he was known
Mhm.
for best utilizing space,
Interesting.
which was interesting because he also was, like, trying to, like, add on, like, 20 rooms to the house.
Right.
So, like, I was like, "This is not what I planned." But anyways, so I was wondering, I was like, I mean, that would make sense if you're someone who lives in, like, a
Yeah.
city where space makes a big difference, whereas, I thought it was interesting.
Yep. No, I totally. And it's unfortunate. And so we're working to change that.
Alright, next up, is there a city that the buildings are just, inspire you so much and you're like, "I just love this." Like, one city you could think of or a place.
Yeah, I mean, they're all European. I do love Manhattan and the diversity and the scale and like they just like there's lots of buildings of different sizes and of different types. But maybe my like the building that I think is the most inspiring building, and it's nothing I would ever design, is the Familia Sagrada Familia, which is in Barcelona. It's just like this. It's a church, but it plays with light and like when you're inside it's just a size that you rarely experience and it has all this colored glass everywhere so the light that comes into the space comes in colors, and the shapes are all like curvy and it's just like a space you've never been in before, so I find it really really inspiring.
So you feel like
And it's by Gaudi. Hmm?
it's interesting because there are some places you step in and you're like, "I literally feel this."
Yes, totally.
And it really affects, like, the environment affects your mood, your vibe.
Yes, you're speaking my language
It
exactly.
it's incredible, which I know is what you do. Alright, so I want you to tell me, now that we got a few questions just to get to know you, tell us a little bit about you and the project that I want you to talk about, the autism center you designed.
Hmm. Hmm. I think I have to go back a little bit. Is that
Please
okay?
go back, lead the show. I'm just here just to smile.
No, 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 because I do think it's important in terms of like why 15, and it does tie back like to the conversation we were having a little bit earlier. These pet peeves. So I worked for a large. I started my career in a large global firm. And I had a great experience there. I then worked in a national size firm where we didn't have engineers in house, had access to a lot of project. Again, did great work, and then I moved to a smaller, like a 20-person firm, local. I noticed in each one of these in each one of these companies, they just weren't practicing in the way that I had maybe expected a company of design or architecture to practice. Or I noticed just some gaps and some things that I wanted to change. And so things like I was 35, all of the women in my graduating class were leaving the profession. As a career younger person, I noticed that it's a really long road to get to a place where you can actually make some decisions or be like the client's liaison or for anyone to really listen to what you're saying. And it's a very also like straight and narrow path. Like you had to be with a company 10 years and another 10 years. And then maybe finally, you get to say, have a voice. I also noticed that the clients were largely kept out of the design process, and that there wasn't enough engagement with the end users. And so, for all of those reasons, I never meant to be an entrepreneur. It wasn't part of my plan. But I looked around, there wasn't a company I wanted to practice at. And so I decided that I needed to create the company that I wanted to work in. And so I recruited partners. So I now have 6 partners. I, at the time, recruited 3 female partners. And we launched almost 8 years ago a practice that asks why are we doing it this way, like every step of the way. And being a female owner company already was something that really didn't exist, at least not in Philadelphia. The way that we work with our clients, the way that we collaborate, it's really unique in the industry, and so I think that just sets the stage.
Definitely. I mean, is this usually like a male-dominated space?
Yeah. Yes.
Which is so interesting
Yes.
actually because, like, I feel like something that, you associate a lot of design elements with woman. Do you think it's
Mhm.
because, like, they were associating it with construction or, like.
That's a really good point. And the reality is that so I teach at Temple, and my classes were, if not 50% female, very close to that or even more than that. And yet when you get into the workplace, like, most women have left. It is very unfriendly to family life. There's like a weird kind of, like, if you get pregnant, then you really should might as well retire or like leave, because you'll never be able to catch up professionally. Obviously, that doesn't have to be that way, but it's just kind of the way that it is. And I do think that there's like a weird, like, goes back, too many hundreds of years, but like, or maybe not that long, unfortunately. But the idea that, like, engineering and like math and difficult things are for the men, not for the women. And the kind of architecture that we practice, really don't do residential. We do all of the big buildings. We're designing, like, big buildings for universities. We call them ground up. So a site where there isn't a building, or we also do interior renovations. And I think when you say that it's usually affiliated or associated with women, you probably are more talking about like the interior design aspect. That's like the woman's world. But the architect, the like architect, with steel and all these things, are for men.
It's so funny. Actually, when I was renovating my house, I started off trying to, like, be, like, the contractor myself until, like, we came into, like, a gas plumbing issue, and then I was like, "Okay, I need someone to take over." Anyways, I hired this contractor. She's, like, this hot. I mean, like, she's hot, like, this beautiful. Anyone who walked in, any of, like, the workers who came in would be like, "Where's the contractor?" Anytime they'd walk in and be like, "Okay, so the designers," she'd be like, "Where's the contractor?" And, like, this chick, they did not fuck with her because she would be like,
Yeah.
but like, her hair would be perfectly
Yeah.
waved, like, she was dressed
Yeah.
to, like, kill, and it was just so funny that it was, like, automatically assumed, of course, she's not the contractor.
Mhm. Yep. Exactly. That's exactly right. That's not surprising. But you really, and honestly, like, you have to remember, I think, as a woman, that you have this power. Like, you can both be, tough and get people, hold people accountable, and then you can also play the other card. And so it's kind of a superpower, but you have to be willing to use both.
Yeah, I was not good at, like, managing when something went wrong. I'm like, it's okay. Whatever."
But I can't tell you how many times in the span of my career I've had to work against that and, like, prove, like, there's this whole proof time before the project manager on the owner's side or the contractor on the site, like, take you seriously. And it's exhausting because they start from the assumption that you don't know anything, either because you're young or because you're female. And then you have to, like, do the work. And then in the end, of course, they realize. But it's strange that it's still that way.
It is. I mean, I'll tell you, even starting Behavior Bitches, you can imagine what the men thought.
Right.
Like, who are these dumb bitches putting themselves out there doing this?
Hmm.
Amazing.
Yeah.
All right, so
But you're doing it.
now we're doing it. Now they're coming on the show, so.
Exactly.
It's behavior bitches.
Hey guys, it's your favorite bitch, Liat here. Are you stressing about taking the BCBA or BCABA exam? Feeling like you don't know where to start? You got into this field, you're worried your program didn't prepare you so much, you're wondering how you're gonna get through grad school, then let alone take this test? Well, let me take that stress on for you. Over here at Study Notes ABA, this is what we do. We eat, breathe, sleep, thinking about the BCBA exam. I've been carrying around my Cooper book for the last 8 years so that you can chill. If you're getting ready to study and wondering what you could be doing, sign up for our live collective. It's 12 weeks, which is done over 24 classes. We meet twice a week. It's taught from actual BCBAs who have been there in your shoes studying for the exam. We make everything relatable, funny. You are actually going to enjoy the study process. And hold me to that. If you're not enjoying it, let me know. I'll be shocked. You get a study group, people who are studying the exact same thing, shared adversity. We could ask all your questions, and we take all the notes with you. You are going to have the most beautiful doodles by the end. and your Cooper book will seem way less scary. Are you worried about payment plans? We've got that too. We get what it's like being an RBT in the field. So stop stressing, start getting ready to pass the test, and go to studynotesaba.com/collectives, and we have it all there laid out beautifully for you. This project, the Autism Center, how did you get involved in this, and like, what is this?
Sure. Yeah. So when we started the company, did not have any experience in healthcare. And that's actually why our client came to us. And our client is Public Health Management Corporation, the CEO, Richard Cohen, visionary. And he specifically did not want to work with a healthcare architect because generally healthcare architects are kind of trapped in their own world of having to pick materials or looks or deal with things in a way that has always been done. And he didn't want spaces to look institutional or clinical, was much more interested in many ways in shifting the stigma around like mental health, behavioral health, public health. And so he reached out to us because we didn't have that experience. And then we worked together to understand what were the things that he was trying to achieve to position public health in a different light. We did at first like a primary care facility that was with a group called Congreso de Latinos Unidos in North Philly. And that was an amazing experience. It was primary care, so a clinic. We renovated their space and we listened to what they wanted. We understood that culturally, there were some things that were really important to them. We worked really hard to relocate a mural or a mosaic that they had. And I heard from people as they started to come in, there were tears because they felt like they now had a place that was like respectable, right, where they could be taken care of. So the whole idea that space can not only affect how you feel, but it could actually communicate that the individuals there are being respected, that there's dignity. I think it's even an indicator of how you might think that the service is, right? Like if the place looks like a dump, then you probably think that the quality of the service is miserable. But if the place looks good, then it's like, oh, I'm getting quality care. And so that was really Richard's vision. It's like, why should people that are less wealthy or disadvantaged need to go to a space where they feel like they're getting second tier service or care? And so we started with that project, honestly, kind of became addicted to that kind of work where we could bring something to a community that didn't have it and just see how they felt valued. And we done a number of other projects, and then one of them was the Center for Autism. And that was like, well, we've never done a Center for Autism before. So our model allows us to bring in what we call collaborators. They're not consultants. They're like an extension of our team. And we reached out also to Thomas Jefferson Center for Autism, their group, just to learn more about how and what
And
we should
where
be
is this
thinking
center
about.
located?
It's currently on Market Street and 46. So in West Philly.
Okay.
It was a move. We moved them from another location in West Philly.
Nice. So sorry, keep going. I just wanted to imagine where it's
Mental.
located. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's great. And so that was kind of the process was we reached out to try to learn more about individuals with autism and the range and learn more about that. We also met with parents and the center is for like young children from 2 and then all the way up to like 21 years of age. So we had to think about a space that's pretty flexible, but that's their biological age. But depending on
Right.
which side of the spectrum, like they could behave in different ways. But yeah, what was really amazing was when we reached out to the folks at Thomas Jefferson. I'll never forget this. They played a video, and it was a 5-minute video that somehow like they represented what a person with autism would experience if they're in a waiting room. And so this video is like highly uncomfortable. It just demonstrated that person is hearing the phone ringing, a conversation nearby, the light being bright, the TV on the screen, the door shutting and opening, like all of these sensory things happening at the same time, and just like how overwhelming it is for a person who has a little bit of a different sensibility. And with that in mind, that became kind of a cornerstone in terms of how we were thinking about the space. And then I think the instinct is to then go and turn and design a space that's like all light green. And I think that's because people think, well, it needs to be like soothing and a color that's not distracting or alarming. But there's a whole range of colors between baby green and red, right? And they said that because the kids could actually really relate to colors as maybe a clue, maybe it's for wayfinding, or just to be able to have that kind of variety in the space so it doesn't all look the same. And at the same time, we also had to be reminded that we're designing for them and we're also designing for the staff. And so we really focused our design in finding materials and things like we learned that a automatic hand dryer could be super startling in the restroom. I never really thought about that, right? So it was like, oh, it's much better if the paper towel is like a manual
Right.
rather than the sudden. And I hadn't really thought about that, or like think about going into that, like that restroom experience could just be really jarring. And so it's been interesting because these things that we learned specifically to design for this population, I now keep in mind and think about how to make space more gentle for everyone, in all spaces. Like we all have different degrees of sensibilities. And thinking about that, I think has really helped us.
It's interesting, especially with the amount of ABA clinics popping up and, people being more aware about autism. And ABA clinics is
Yeah.
also like, it has become like a hot industry to get into as well, even from a business perspective of everyone and their sister and
Yep.
nanny opening an ABA clinic. And like,
Yep.
I've like toured a lot of these autism clinics and they'll take you to a room. Right? And it's like, this is our sensory room. And essentially, all that makes it a sensory room is that there's a bin of like sticky fidgets with like hair stuck on them. Right?
Awful.
Or like
Awful.
a bean bag. Or, and it's like maybe like a
It's
big
awful.
body ball that you could roll on or something. And it's like, I think that's a big misunderstanding that like everyone with autism is automatically going to want to touch squishies or,
No.
and it's like, as you
It's
said, you're
awful.
thinking of the detail, you're thinking about the paper towel dispenser, you're thinking of, like, the texture of the carpet in the room, like, is this actually going to be
Exactly.
something that and, I mean, I'm assuming a big thing you're also thinking about probably are acoustics. Uh,
Yes.
like, for example, sometimes I have a brother with autism, and I also happen to be someone I always say, like, I have like, they always say, like, a lot of people, like, are somewhere on the spectrum. I'm always like, I
Yep.
have a lot of health issues, like, my fingers fall off, I, like, literally, like, I have lupus, every health issue, but I know that, like, autism is one of the things I do not have. Also, because I am so not sensory, like, I can wear my shirt backwards, inside out, sideways, I wouldn't feel it. I could have food on my face at any time, like, there could be like, I just don't feel it, like, it's just I'm
Mhm.
so not sensory, like, aware. And, my sister's house, we have, like, Shabbat dinner Friday night dinner, Shabbat dinner there a lot, and she has 3 kids, and then I have my son, and whenever I'm in there, I'm like, her dining room, for some reason, I don't know what the acoustics is, it is horrible, and, like, I'm not aware of this stuff, like, I'm telling you, I could be someone driving an entire
Yeah.
car ride, 3 hours, and not realize there was
Yeah.
music on, and I'm like, it creates this awareness, I'm like, "This is how it must feel for someone who's,
Yeah.
like, I genuinely am, like, just, like, startled at all times, and I'm like, "This
Yeah.
is what it must feel like to someone." And so, like, you're thinking of all these things, again, beyond the squishies,
Yes.
the fidget
Yes.
toys.
100%. Lighting is a big one, like lighting levels so that they're dimmable, right? Because we noticed that because we toured one of these facilities and they had like the big fluorescent lights at the top, and the therapist had covered them with like bags because the bright lights was a problem. So it's like such a silly thing, right? But it's so easy to just put them on a dinner. And the thing is that what's really, I think, importantly at is that it's taught us to design, like, even if we're designing a workplace, even if we're designing a classroom, like, people are really different. It goes to what you were saying. Like, even in our own office, some people, are older and need more light. The younger people, like, don't want that much light. Some people get a migraine from staring at a computer. They need a place to. Some people drink caffeinated coffee. Some people drink decaf. And just like being open to the fact that you're designing for a lot of different people, and that's not just designing for the common lowest denominator. Like that sucks, right? We're saying design spaces that can be welcoming to all different kinds of people, that create choice, and because of that are much better, which totally gets us at like why our process. So our process is highly collaborative. Typically in architecture and everywhere I worked, and even in education, it's all about like the single genius. Like this one person had the brilliant idea and has to do all the design and everybody else just executes it. Well, guess what? If that person doesn't have a sensibility to light or to sound or to whatever, right? Like then that's not considered in the design. So we
Absolutely.
make the process inclusive, collaborative from within, but also we invite the end users into the process. And then the result is that the spaces are much more lasting, relevant, sustainable, friendly.
It's so interesting, all the things you say, because I think about it myself as someone who has a chronic illness. As I said, I have lupus, and I've spent a lot of time in a lot of hospitals, like across different cities. I've been in New York City hospitals that like literally like gives me a stomach ache even thinking of. I have that here. Sorry, I like need coffee stat.
Yeah, that's awesome. You have an amazing team.
Thanks, Martha. I saw a girl on the call before having a Starbucks, and I was like, I need that. But I was saying, I've been in a lot of different hospitals, and like I've also read some studies. I believe, like first of all, based on like a doctor's bedside manner about how your treatment outcome is going to be, right? The way they come to you, but also the environment, even having like a window open. So the hospital
Yeah,
that I go to now in Dallas, I always feel like I'm like so spoiled because literally I've been to hospitals in like Washington D.C. Obviously there's not the same amount of space and there's like probably different like
sure.
population around whatever it is, but I've also been to different hospitals here. Like I'm telling you the
Mhm.
art they have there is like
Yeah,
Andy Warhol stuff that like I would like just that alone, I'm like
yeah.
it really helps, like, I'm being like, "I'm not that sick girl." Like, I'm not, like, in this hospital that
No.
smells like piss, that, like, whatever it is, it's
Yeah,
like but yes, I am. Like, I have a lot of chronic illness
yeah,
issues, but at the same
yeah.
time, it's like, what a difference, like, manipulating the environment, as
Totally.
we say in ABA, can have to,
Totally.
outcomes or, like, performance or
Oh my
I mean,
God.
even myself,
Totally.
when I wanna get work done at my desk, if I come in as someone with, like, ADHD, I'm, like, immediately stressed when my stuff's all over, right?
Yeah, of course.
Like, so
Of
just
course.
all these things that you're talking about, like, for example, if I wanna get work done, I need to go find somewhere to work that has surface area on the table, right?
Right.
Like, I if you want me to be working at a tiny coffee shop, like, little circle table like this, like, I'm stressed.
Yeah.
But you're thinking of all this, right?
Yeah. No, that's exactly right. And it's been really so you get it, right? A lot of people I think don't know the impact that it's having on them. So one of the biggest struggles that as an architect I hear other architects talk about all the time is we're undervalued. Nobody, no, like we don't get paid enough. Nobody understands the value of design. And there's so much to unpack there because I think as a profession we just have not done a good job at talking about the importance of design when it comes to well-being, the importance of design when it comes to health or promoting interactions. We've been talking about design as like this thing that's like for the people who have a lot of money, like a very elitist kind of need, like a wishes more than a need. It's for awards, it's for the rich. And I think we've done a really huge disservice because then for people who feel like that's not for me, then what's the alternative? And the alternative is like a contractor or somebody who's gonna do this thing like on budget because that's money's a real
Right.
issue. So we've been pushed out of the process, but I think that's because we've not been able to communicate where that value is, or relate with the like kind of users of the space in that way. And that was a lot of my frustration and why I thought like I need to I mean, it's a beautiful profession. I love what I do, but it's also a dying profession. And if we don't hurry up and do something about it, then Jeff Bezos is going to take over, right? Like there's just too much opportunity for people to do this well, and we're doing a shit job. So, I mean, there's a
That
lot of work to
literally
do. It's
was
not
the
something I can do on
title.
my own.
That was the title of the podcast yesterday. ABA sucks at marketing itself. Like it's like we're not doing a good job. People are really only getting the bad side of things.
It's behavior, bitches.
Are you a BCBA now and you are sad because you hate your job? Are you thinking, I worked so effing hard and here I am dreading Monday? Well, you're not the only one. We get that message all the time and we decided to do something about it. Welcome our newest baby, Pair ABA by Study Notes ABA. What is this? Well, we pair you with jobs that you actually don't hate. Imagine that. Imagine going to work on Monday and being excited about it. Imagine working somewhere where you're appreciated, you're paid well, they're doing ethical practice, and you love what you do. Well, that's not impossible because we have formed Pair ABA where we talk to clinics that we would actually want to work at. We're not going to send you anywhere. We are assessing these clinics to see, are they doing the good work? Are they not telling you one thing and then having you do another thing once you sign on? If you're concerned that you're not happy or you're feeling unsettled where you are, don't settle. Don't settle in relationships. Don't settle in work. Realize your value. Let us help you find a job where you are happy. All you need to do is head on over to pairaba.com. The response effort is low. Fill out the form so we can help you find job options near you. If you're a clinic and you think you're good enough for us to place at, also head over to pairaba.com. And we will see, are you good enough for our badass BCBAs who we protect? Go check it out, pairaba.com. Love you, mean it. But that actually brings me to my next thing. You're saying like people aren't feeling appreciated, people aren't realizing the value. Where does this put AI in here? Like, is AI a concern for the space?
I actually think it's an opportunity. I don't think it's I suppose it could be a concern. Let me unpack it a little bit. But I think it's an opportunity because AI can help a firm like us do some of the like really tedious work behind what we do and give us more time to do the designing of things. Now, there are people using AI out there who are like not architects and who hire like one designer and are producing, countless iterations or plans for everyone by AI, and then having one designer look at it and be like, yeah, check, good, this is good to go. I think that's a massive problem because how walls are laid out in a space to how you actually ultimately experience that space, like I'm not sure how AI makes up for that difference,
Right. I mean, because
I don't know if that's your question, but
No,
that's kind
it
of what's
is.
in my
Because I mean,
mind.
even in
Yeah.
ABA, like we say, like we did an AI podcast recently, and it's like, yeah, it could write a lot of behavior programs, and it could be, but there has to be a human component in it that is like,
Mm-hmm.
maybe. And I don't know all the parts of an architect. And by the way, I didn't end up
Mm-hmm.
using the architect that I was going to use. I became my own contractor, which probably would have saved me a lot of money if I did use an architect
Yeah.
when I had to do everything twice. But the idea that like you could have them do it, but like who's looking over it? Who's
Right.
who's doing the final thing? Like, are you sure that wall's not gonna fall? Like, the human
Right.
mind knows like what actually happens when you do X next to Y, or
Yeah.
I don't
Exactly.
know enough to say it, but
Yeah.
it's just that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it just needs to be another part of the collaboration equation, but I don't know that it can be sort of on its own. I mean, I really do think about what we do as such a human-centered thing, just like your work. Which, by the way, I totally agree with your assessment of the ABA clinics that are popping up everywhere. We actually turned down one job because they told us, and it was so horrible. And they just like wanted us to document it. And I was like, I absolutely will not do that. I'm not going to do that.
Document it.
Like they had made a plan, they had drawn it, and then they wanted us to like, make the the architectural details of it and sign it so that it could get built because you need a professional to do that.
And you're like,
But I wouldn't do it
I'm not putting my
because
name on this shit.
not on that, not on that. It was awful.
Do you have any examples of how like a design choice has like lighting, color, or material actually changed how people behaved or interacted in the space? Like, do you have a specific example?
I'll give you one that doesn't rely on my background as an architect at all, which is that I teach. I mentioned that earlier. And I always change the arrangement of the furniture for my class. And it drastically changes the kind of engagement I get from the students and the kind of class that we can have. So when you go from the line desks, the teacher in the front arrangement, to let's take away the tables and bring the chairs to a circle and let's chat about what we're going to learn today. Like I become part of the group. One, people aren't dozing off because you really can't hide, right? All the voices are, there's like an equity thing because you're not like at the front or at the back. And it completely changes the dynamic of the conversation. And that's just furniture. That's just the layout of a room.
That's so true. And that, just to tie it back to ABA, you know, we always talk about these environmental manipulations, like, or what is the most pragmatic approach, right? As opposed to being like, we have
Mhm.
this kid who's acting up in class, like rolling out of his seat. It's like, okay, we can make this whole intervention for him, or we could use, you know, one of the attitudes of science, like pragmatism, and be like, I'm going to put this kid closer to the front, or not next to this other
Right,
kid, or,
right.
and I mean, it's just funny, like at our office here, like there's been times my office that, I mean, you're seeing me in the studio part, but downstairs is essentially a huge warehouse where we ship. Our desks are down there. It's one huge open space. But like there's been times when we're like, we need new energy. And we literally
Yeah,
move everything. Like this desk over here. And by the way, that was
yeah.
like a full-time job for me as a kid. Every like Saturday I would like redo my room and be like, okay, I think I need to
Right.
hang like
Of
these beanie I
course.
think I need to hang these Beanie Babies from the fan, move my bed facing this way, move the Spice Girls
Yep.
poster on that wall
Of course.
all the time.
Of course. Of course. And I've seen that, which I think is hilarious. Like lately, I guess on Instagram or something, this whole thing about like the kids are like the young college students are making like this big deal out of their dorm rooms and like personalizing them. And it's like, well, of course, like moving away from your
Have
home
you
to a
seen these dorm
completely
rooms now?
like
I lived in
different,
like a
yeah,
prison cell.
right, correct. But it makes a lot of sense that these young people are making it feel comforting, and welcoming. Maybe it's to an extreme, I don't know,
No,
but
it's
the
amazing
concept of
actually.
it makes a lot of sense.
It's crazy. There's actually people's like full-time job to be these like dorm designers and like these sorority.
What?
Have you seen these sorority designers? Is that what they're called?
Oh
Or
no.
sorority like it's insane. It's amazing. They're
That's
living like
crazy.
Kardashians.
That's crazy. And then my sister called me, like she's into communications and marketing, and she called me all excited because she said she had to go get a mammogram, and she went to this place. It was horrible. She felt like an animal being kind of guided through this, process.
Mhm.
It was awful. And then she had to have a follow up. And for that follow up, they sent her to a different clinic. And she said in that place, like it was amazing. She said it felt like I was in a spa, and I was also, getting a screening. And she's like, you better believe that I'm gonna go back to that place that made me feel that way because I actually like wasn't traumatized after, and I felt like a human being. It's a huge difference.
It's
And the process, like what she was ultimately getting done, is the same.
it's the environment really is so important. It's so funny because like what you see here on this set, for example, and if you saw the rest of the office is 100% Liat. Like this is like I am like a
Hmm.
rainbow like unicorn threw up. But I knew
Hmm.
that I wanted my house to be calmer because and it's just not where my like aesthetic goes. So like I
Right.
actually like had a friend who I like grew up with who actually is like an awesome designer, interior decorator now. And like at my house when I go in my bathroom, I walk in and I'm like I literally feel like I'm in a spot. I feel calm.
Yeah.
Whereas like my energy at work is intense.
Right. Yeah. You need that.
Like in behavior we call that stimulus control. Like some stimuli like are like, okay, this is how I feel in this environment or this is how I respond in this
Hmm.
environment, you know?
Yeah. Totally. Totally. Yeah, so like back to the Center for Autism, we learned by talking with folks that, like you said, like you mentioned the carpet, that was a big thing. So we couldn't have carpet that had like a high pile because the kids might like pick on it or like de-thread it. And so we found a material that was a kind of a blend between a hard surface and something soft, because we didn't want it to all be hard, because it needed to feel cozy. And so then there was also like the conversation about wall covering and how like the seams of the wall covering could be an issue. We talked about the lighting a bit. The acoustics was a big thing. We also talked about like where the light switches were and like the distractions, and how we sometimes those are at odds with like accessibility requirements. So there was just so much to think about. Like almost every single element had to be considered.
So is this something that now you would do more of in this space? Like that's like could be like your specialty?
We would love to. I think my ideal situation is that we would do some of it and that we would then also like bring these lessons to the rest of the work. So it wouldn't be the only thing we do, but I would love to be the person that centers like this go to, because I think we can just make such a better experience for everyone. But what's really interesting again is that at university interviews recently, we've been asked, what are some of the things you would do to address like neurodiversity? And we're able to come at it from this perspective of having to had designed for folks who actually have like significant challenges every day.
Wow.
So I'm excited about bringing it to other spaces, because there's other spaces that could benefit from it. I guess that's my answer.
Yeah, that I mean, it makes sense. It's like you have, I don't know necessarily like an extreme, like, or someone who's able to
Right.
communicate like what these sensory needs are, but a lot of the things are things that would help a lot of people. Like I guess I've always
Exactly.
like it's always I always say it's funny that I have a test prep company because like school was not always easy for me, but like there were certain things that like again, I already know like I said little things. Like if my desk was one of those like tiny high school desks where like you sit in and it's like
Hmm.
this square this size, I can't learn. I can't spread my stuff out. I can't see. I
Right.
can't, but like whereas someone else, like they wouldn't care. I mean, I'm like a lot of things like
Right.
that. I'm like, if I have a shitty pen, I can't take notes.
Right.
Like
Exactly.
all these little things, that are like,
Yeah.
so
Totally.
just keeping that in mind is super fascinating.
I guess on the topic of design and design, what I call like design equity, is that the idea also, like we work with a lot of non-for-profits, and there's this whole idea that as a non-for-profit you can't afford high design, that the design, I'm sorry, that the money has to go to the mission. But I think what people fail to see is that if you design the space again in a way that provides inspiration, dignity, is healthy, you can leave the day, whether you're staff or a patient or a user, feeling better, then that is part of the mission. Or if the space communicates the mission in a way, right? So we've come across this all too often, and it's like, oh, it's a center for autism that's nonprofit, like it needs to be like bare minimum when it comes to design because we have to invest the money somewhere else. Like, first of all, it doesn't have to be a high budget, you just have to make the right choices. Step number one, I'm a firm believer that no matter what your budget is, you can have something nice. It just needs to be like, if you order a hot dog, it needs to be a great hot dog, it shouldn't be a lobster, right? Like that's the thing. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that because I do feel like part of my mission is to bring design to everyone, like good design, thoughtful design, and pull it away from this idea that you can only have a well-designed space if you have money. Because I think all spaces could benefit from that kind of thinking.
I agree. Literally, even if you have to move your bed from one side to the other, do it.
Right. Do it. Do it. Even if you have to go paint, like grab a bucket of paint at Home Depot, it's like $25. Paint the wall.
It's so funny that that was always just me. Like even when I'd move into like my college dorm for like the year, like I'm like, I have to have a
Oh yeah.
chalkboard wall. I
You
have to
have
have
to
a chalkboard
paint.
wall.
Yeah. Yeah,
All of it,
of
all the little
course.
things. Well, this is
Yeah.
this is so insightful, and I think
Fun.
it's also like great. Also, like I always tell people, like when you're studying for the exam, make sure you set up your study environment that's going to be conducive. Like I'm
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
make sure that you have a cup of pens that you really like next to you. You have space on the table that's cleaned off the table. Make sure you have a candle lit. Like
Hmm.
when the candle's lit, that's the
Yes.
vibe,
Yeah.
right? All of it.
That's awesome. Totally.
And it controls an
Totally.
environment. But all of this is so important. So thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's really fun. Thanks to you, Liat.
Of course. Where can anyone find you?
So the best place is probably our website, and it's xvadesign.com, because 15 is XV in Roman numerals, so XVAD.
Oh, cool.
And also, I try to be active on LinkedIn, so find me on LinkedIn.
Okay, so we will put all of this in the show notes. Thank you
Okay.
so much. Do you do work like outside all over the states?
Yeah, we currently, we have to have a license wherever it is that we practice, but we really follow our clients. So we're primarily like between New York and Maryland, but we also do work in Kentucky, we do work in North Carolina, and we'll even go international. It's just a matter of our seeing opportunities. We
Great.
travel well.
Okay, I love it. Well,
Yeah.
thank you. Everyone, you know where you could find us. You could find us on behaviorbitches.com. Reach out if there's a topic or something you want to speak about or a guest you want us to have on. We love hearing from you. Or you just want to say how great we are. You could also do that. Head on over to our YouTube where we now have all of our podcasts visually. You could know what's happening. And also, we're really trying to grow that. That is new. So please go subscribe to Behavior Bitches YouTube. Also, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, it's Behavior Bitches Podcast. Go check it out. And as always, love ya. Mean it.
It's behavior bitches.
Hey, Behavior Bitches besties. First of all, thank you so much for taking the time and stopping and watching all of our content on YouTube. We put a lot of effort into putting these podcasts into YouTube. That means I have to get dressed for the day, do my makeup, and actually show up when I used to come in looking completely homeless to record because no one could see my face. This being said, for us to keep doing this, we live for your subscription. So please do not forget to subscribe to our channel and like and leave us comments and love. Live for the love and keep tuning in, and you'll always know when our new episode drops. Love you. Mean it.